This podcast is part of Mishmash Media. Hello, beloved Stephen.
Hello, beloved cunt.
Welcome to another episode of Curbcast. My name is Ivan.
And I am Stephen.
And this is a podcast where we review every episode of that wonderful show, Curb Your Enthusiasm, episode by episode, scene by scene. And Stephen, we are up to, I think, probably the best episode of season 1, hands down, Beloved Cunt. Yes. I mean, Beloved Aunt.
Interchangeable in this podcast episode. I believe we'll be using the word cunt a lot. So that is a warning, even though we've said it 3 or 4 times already. If you are offended by that word, maybe you should just skip this episode entirely. But I feel like...
Or maybe you should just stop watching Curb.
I was going to say, I feel like fans of Curb Your Enthusiasm would be already prepared for it. So it's probably not too much of an issue for anyone listening to this podcast.
Yeah, we will put an explicit language label on this episode anyway.
Yeah, I think we have to anyway to satisfy the podcast masters at Apple.
The overlords.
That's it. You may be wondering as well why we sound a bit different. There's been another lockdown in Melbourne, Australia, where we are based, and that has meant that we've had to record remotely. The next 3 episodes will be done remotely. So if we do sound a bit different to our normal quality, that is the reason why. We were hoping to record in person this week, but to keep the episodes coming out week by week, we've had to, resort to the old remote recording.
Yeah. So apologies for any clicks and clacks and all that stuff.
Yeah. If you want to get in touch with us, you can. We've got some social media. Curbcast Pod is our handle. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, and TikTok. We also have an email address, curbcastpod@gmail.com. You can support us by rating or reviewing this podcast in your podcast app of choice, or just by letting other people know about us. Maybe you've got some friends or family who are Curb fans or even Seinfeld fans. Let them know what we're doing. That would be awesome. And finally, we do have a Patreon as well. Patreon.com/Mishmash Media, where you can donate some money per month to get access to all sorts of goodies that we did on our previous podcast, which is But I Don't Want to Be a Secondary Character, a Seinfeld podcast that we finished about 2 months ago, and check that out as well.
Indeed. Anyway, let's get straight into this one, mate. My favorite, I'm going to say it straight off the bat, my favorite season 1 episode, Beloved Aunt.
Yeah, it's a classic.
Oh, absolutely. It's just, everything just works. The writing, the acting, Larry probably gets into the most shit he's gotten into so far this series.
Yeah, this is the most holes that Larry's dug himself into for sure.
Oh, massive. This is more than usual. It's
I was going to say
one hit after another.
Holes is probably under describing it as well. I'm going to say trenches, maybe even canyons.
I'm going to say craters, yeah.
Yeah.
Canyons, yeah.
Yep.
Abysses, whatever you want to call it.
Actually, an abyss is probably the best way because it doesn't seem to end. It's just this black hole of abyssal nothing.
That's right. That's basically Larry's life in this episode. Anyway, Beloved Aunt, season 1, episode 8 of Curb Your Enthusiasm, aired in the US on the 3rd of December 2000. When Cheryl's aunt dies, the family asks Larry to write an obituary, but when it gets printed in the newspaper, an unfortunate typo lands Larry in the hot seat. And Stephen, I have one bit of trivia about this episode. A few episodes ago in The Bracelet, you heard about, or we saw the homeless man who thanked Larry for the chicken l'orange.
Yeah. He also turned down Larry's initial offering. I can't remember what it was. And we had a pretty decent discussion about that too.
Yeah, we did. But it turns out that in this episode, Larry gives that chicken l'orange to that same homeless man. So this apparently reveals that the episode precedes The Bracelet in the show's timeline, but it was moved later in the airing order. So, there you go.
Oh, okay. Yep. No,
Yeah. So he actually, what he does in Beloved Aunt is reflected on in The Bracelet 4 episodes before.
Oh, okay.
Crazy, huh?
They did that in Seinfeld sometimes where the production order didn't match the airing order.
Yeah, they did. And it's funny because we did talk about that and we were in deep discussion, but I totally forgot that they swapped the storylines around. Totally forgot about it.
Yeah.
We've done season 1 of this podcast in the past for our Patreon subscribers, but I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, I don't even know if we mentioned it when we initially recorded season 1. We may have, but that was a while ago now. But it all makes sense now.
I know. It's just really I read that and I'm like, oh yeah, of course. We were debating for that for a minute or 2 on the Bracelet episode.
Yeah.
Oh well, mystery solved. Yes. First scene of Beloved Aunt. The scene is set at Cheryl's aunt's funeral. Larry is adjusting the thermostat in the room as Cheryl is receiving condolences. He speaks with Cheryl's sister Becky's boyfriend, who thanks him for the hotel room. Larry says that he cut his finger after trying to put another hole in his belt. He says that Nikki wants to get married and adds that he was going to break up with her before they flew in for the funeral. He asks advice for Larry on how long he should wait to break up with Nikki. Larry suggests that he should break up with Becky when they head back to Florida.
Yeah, this would be a conversation I would avoid. If
Absolutely.
Yep. Even if it wasn't at a funeral, which is probably an awkward place to have almost any discussion that isn't, the person who's passed away. This would be a conversation that I would say, look, I am not going to give you any advice on how to break up with this person. I'd maybe just listen to them because obviously it's complication. But yeah, I wouldn't involve myself at all.
No. It's something which is completely personal. And Larry, Larry thinks he's giving good advice, but it will come back to bite him later on.
It's another one of Larry's weird protocols about, timing, when you can do this, when you can do that, how long you have to wait for this or whatever. When he said,
that's exactly what I was thinking. His laws, his laws for life.
Yeah, Larry's laws. I think every time that happened, we should call them a Larry law, just as a
Larry law
theme of this podcast. A Larry
David's law.
Yeah, a law of Larry.
Law of Larry.
Law of Larry. Yeah, I think he says ordinarily I'd wait 6. When you get back to Florida, you have to wait 6 or maybe 7 days. It seems like he just picks a number of days out of the air, but I think for Larry, that would be a set protocol for him, that, that is the appropriate amount of time you would have to wait to break up with someone after a funeral, 6 days for whatever. I mean, it doesn't explain why it's 6 days or 7 days.
It's just arbitrary.
Yeah, it seems arbitrary to us, but I think for Larry, that is an established thing. That's something he's thought through before at some stage, because he sounds pretty confident when he says it.
But I'm sure there's not many scenarios where someone's thinking of breaking up with someone after a funeral. I mean,
no.
That means Larry must have a law for like every single scenario in the world.
Well, every time he brings up his annoyance with a little social protocol or some sort of thing that you're supposed to do that he doesn't understand. Sometimes in life when something happens, you go, I don't even understand why that's a thing, but you don't really have any thoughts beyond that. You're just expressing the fact that you don't understand because you haven't thought about it before. But Larry always seems to have a lot of thoughts about whatever he's annoyed at or whatever his idea is. So yeah, I think he spent a lot of time thinking through almost any scenario you can imagine. He's probably got at least a few thoughts about it, if not a fully set out protocol like he does in this situation. So yeah,
he's nuts.
Yeah, he's just got too much time in his hands. That's probably much time. That's one of the benefits of him being mostly a loner. He probably has a lot of time to think about all these little social requirements and what is correct and not correct in his eyes.
Well, lucky for him. If only we had the same privilege, huh? Larry goes to Cheryl, Becky, and her parents. Becky comments on the boyfriend being very quiet during the trip. Larry offers for the parents to stay over at their house and for Nikki to stay in the hotel for another night. Cheryl's parents say that there was no obituary for the aunt. Larry says that he will write it and get it printed in the local paper, and he seems to want to win, curry some favor for his in-laws for some reason.
Yeah, look, I imagine this is the first time you see significant interaction between Cheryl's parents and Larry. I imagine in the past there's probably been a whole lot of awkward situations, much like Larry and Jeff's parents.
Yeah.
So he probably has some ground to make up, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, probably he's trying to impress Cheryl as well. Maybe he'd look like, a fool if he didn't, or, he'd look bad in front of Cheryl if he didn't do it. Maybe he's trying to save face as well.
Yeah. Look, it always seems like Larry is trying to regain some respect from anyone around him. So I think that's a constant in his life. Cheryl's parents, whoever. He always seems to, screw over people or annoy people, intentionally or not. A lot of the time it's not his fault, which we talk about regularly. But he always seems to be owing an apology or owing a gift or owing something to almost everyone around him because they're annoyed at him or they don't like him or he's done something or whatever it is. So I think this is just another case of that.
Yeah, absolutely. In the next scene, Jeff and Larry are having lunch at a restaurant after the funeral. Larry asks if Jeff can still get the obituary organized for the paper as Jeff knows the editor. He says he'll get it done by the 4 p.m. deadline to have it published the next day. Jeff asks out of curiosity how the aunt died. And this was so dark. Larry says that she committed suicide and it was rude that she didn't leave a note. Oh boy. This is pretty dark.
Yeah, I think the fact that Larry is just so almost irreverent about it makes it even.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
he's just like, she could have at least left a note. How inconsiderate! How selfish!
Like that's the thing that he thinks about first is that it's rude that she didn't leave a note. Not that his auntie-in-law died. It's that she didn't read a note.
Yeah. That's the problem. That's the biggest issue here.
Yeah,
I love it. He's just so set on it. He's like, this should have happened.
Yeah,
another law of Larry.
I mean, to be fair, it is a curious thing.
Yeah,
I would understand why Larry would be curious about it, or even maybe make comment on it. But the fact that that's the first thing he says after he says to Larry how she killed herself. That she killed herself.
Yeah, They don't mention the method, which is very tasteful.
Yeah, it's not like I think a normal person would go, oh, she killed herself and, she had a, I don't know, everyone's really upset. Like, everyone would talk about like, the significant things after saying how she died, not the fact that she didn't leave a note. Like, that's Larry's first thought.
That's the first thought. I know, he's just like, it's crazy.
And not that she didn't leave a note, but that it's rude.
It's rude. I know. It's like, why were you so selfish? It's like, come on, man. Jeff says that his parents are in town and he asks Larry if he can get his mum a gift for her birthday, even after what Larry has gone through with them in the Pans tent. Larry's like, oh, should I get her a gift? They probably don't like me too much. But Jeff insists on Larry getting her a gift, and they begin to draft the obituary together. They begin to write it out. So, I think Jeff wants to kind of make amends with, Larry and, get his parents to get along with him more. He's trying to mend some relationships.
Yeah, I think Jeff's got a bit of self-interest in this as well. I can imagine Jeff's parents giving Jeff a bit of grief because they're not only friends, but they're, professional. They've got a professional relationship as well. So
the parents wanted Larry to get sacked. They wanted Jeff to sack Larry. To drop him as a client. Yeah. They mentioned that. He mentions that in a previous episode.
Yeah, so I think Jeff wants Larry to buy his parents and specifically his mum a gift to not only improve the relationship between his parents and Larry, but also to maybe get them to back off from him a bit as well.
Yeah, to kind of get off his back as well, because he cops a lot of shit from like his parents, Susie, everyone, other clients. He's got a lot on his plate. Yeah.
I mean, he's being a good manager, actually, because that's kind of a manager's job. If you're paying them, is to smooth over, your public image, even if it's just amongst your family. That's what a good manager does. They take care of. It's almost like personal PR in a way. He's trying to improve Larry's image amongst those around him.
He's like his PR agent.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's what a manager should do. They should always put the artist or, whoever they're looking after his interests and image first. He's doing it, it's not a public image repair. It's a personal image repair, I guess. But he's being a good manager here, I think, too.
And Jeff wins either way.
Exactly.
Well, he wins if it all works out,
Yeah, he's doing his job, and it kills two birds with one stone.
Indeed. Back at the Davids' house later on, the family are around for snacks for the wake. Cheryl's mum says that Becky's boyfriend broke up with her, and they all criticize him for doing it after he went back to Florida. And Larry's, he's like, "Oh yeah, that guy, how terrible." And then they're trying to say, so what did you talk to? What did you talk to him about? And Larry's like, oh, not much. He's trying to, cover for himself.
I think he says they just talked about the aunt.
Oh, the aunt. Yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah. It was just the funeral and how nice it was, and the aunt and stuff, but not the crucial part, the crucial thing that happened.
No.
Larry tells Cheryl that he is going to play some golf just to try and get out of the house, and Cheryl is bewildered considering what happened with her aunt. She's like, we just came from a funeral, man. You can't just go play golf.
Yeah.
They're talking about comedians, including Carrot Top, before Larry says he'll go get the newspaper to show everyone the obituary. And Cheryl's dad offers to go get the paper, so he heads off to go get it. And later on, Becky enters the house in tears and says that her boyfriend was not happy. That's why he broke up with her. She can't believe that he broke up with her after her aunt died. Becky asks Larry if he said anything to him. Larry says they just talked about the hotel minibar and her aunt, like you mentioned. Yep. Larry leaves to go get Jeff's mum a gift as Becky's in tears as the family console her. So we can see the beginnings of it. I mean, Becky's in tears. We can see that, Cheryl's dad's gone to get the newspaper, and everything seems to be okay. I mean, everything seems to be, just like a family grieving. But little do we know, like in a couple of scenes' time, everything will just explode.
Yeah, it all just falls apart around Larry.
It does.
Yeah, I mean, they're setting it up well. That every time Larry puts himself out, whether he's giving advice or offering to do something nice, in this case, the obituary, that it's not going to work out and everything's just going to blow up around him.
Yeah, something's going to go wrong. Something has to happen.
Yeah.
Murphy's Law. What can't go wrong will go wrong. Larry goes to different stores to look at sunglasses before finding a pair that Elizabeth Taylor wears. Oh, there you go. Fancy. He buys a pair and asks about how to get it gift wrapped. The attendant says that they don't wrap it in the store. She directs Larry to a card store to get the wrapping. He asks if they sell scissors and tape at the store. So obviously he's not really a gift-giving kind of guy. He doesn't even know how to, where to get all the stationery. She also suggests to buy a Bowen card, to top up the present. Larry says that he's just handing her the gift. He's just going to hand Jeff's mum the sunglasses case.
Yeah.
Just doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, I mean, Larry thought it would be as simple as going to buy something and just handing it. But when he realizes that he has to go to all these different stores for all these different things and put it all together, and I'm going to bet as well he doesn't know how to wrap. Even if he got all the things quickly, he wouldn't know what to do with them. Or if he did, he would do a very terrible job.
I'm pretty bad with wrapping gifts myself, and I'm kind of leaning in Larry's camp here. I mean, like, first of all, like, wrapping paper is such a waste. I mean, especially around Christmas, you look at like recycling bins and rubbish bins, and they're so full of like wrapping, and all that goes to landfill. You know, either use like, you know, something like more paper based or biodegradable, or just, you know, just put the gift in like a reusable bag or something.
Yeah, I think that's why gift bags are popular. The only time I think wrapping is nice is if you give a surprise to someone, especially if it's a kid. Watching a kid open a cool toy or something that they've wanted or really like when it's wrapped up, just that initial moment of what is this, and then the excitement when they open it up. You know, the wrapping paper is nice, but in any other circumstance, I think between adults, wrapping paper shouldn't be a thing unless it's a surprise for your partner, or, you know, if it's something special. But if it's just a standard exchange of gifts at Christmas or a birthday, I'd be happy if people just gave me the thing, even if it doesn't even have to be in a gift bag. Just like,
just hand it over.
Yeah,
just hand me the gift. That's fine.
Exactly. You know,
good for me.
It just seems to be this weird social custom or requirement that it's one of the few times where I look at a social custom and agree with Larry. And, you know, Larry's so, like, even though he doesn't really make mention of why wrapping is required, you can tell that that's what he would think. He's like, why do I have to go to all this effort for something that someone's just going to tear apart in 5 seconds?
And then it's just going to landfill. What a waste.
Yeah, I kind of agree with him.
Yeah, me too.
I also wanted to mention as well, in the previous scene, I made a note of it, and I forgot to bring it up when you were talking through it, when they're at Larry's house and mourning and talking about the funeral. I did laugh when Larry challenged himself to put, I think, 4 or 5 bits of food in his mouth. And when his mouth's full, he does a Vito Corleone impression from the
Marlon Brando impersonation. Yeah,
you're in The Godfather. He's like, you know. I did laugh at that. And it's one of those few times where Larry can be charming and funny and offer a bit of levity to a situation. You know, most situations with Larry are either tense or awkward or both. But he does have this ability. You do see it occasionally every few episodes. He turns it on where he'll sort of just be funny, and most people respond well because he is a funny man.
They'll seem to get along with him in that scene. Like, the whole family really enjoyed the laugh. You know, considering what they went through, you know, at the funeral, they kind of appreciated it. Look at all that massacre, my boy.
It kind of reminded me of Porno Gill when Cheryl's obviously very pissed off at Larry about that whole episode's events, but then he kind of charms her and brings her back around slightly when he's like, you know, how out of 10 are you pissed off at me? Like, I need to get down to 7.5 out of 10. And he's doing it in this sort of flirty, funny way. And, you know, she does crack a smile. It kind of reminded me of that, where Larry does have this occasional ability to turn on the humor and the charm to just, you know, break some tension or add some humor to an uneasy situation. So it was nice to see. And it was just funny. Like, just seeing Larry David do a Vito Corleone from the Godfather impression just made me laugh. Yeah,
it's actually a really good impersonation.
Yeah, he was like, I don't think he even said words. I think he just mumbled sounds.
Yeah, it was just, but that's exactly what Marlon Brando sounds like in the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
You can barely understand what he's saying.
We'll make him an offer he can't refuse. I can't do it.
Make him an offer. Look at how they massacred my boy.
They massacred my boy. Yeah, maybe we need to stuff 4 or 5 walnuts in our mouth or kumquats or something.
Cotton balls.
Cotton balls. To do a good impression.
I think that's what Marlon Brando used. He used cotton balls.
Oh, did he?
He put like 10 of them in his mouth or something, yeah.
Did he actually do that?
I think that's what he did to get that impression, yeah. Yeah, it was something like that. Yeah, if you read up on it, I think he put something in his mouth, yeah.
All right. I thought he just manipulated his face. I didn't realize that he actually put something in there. That's really interesting.
No, I'm pretty sure he did. I think it's been spoofed in like Mel Brooks films. I think there was like a scene where someone was trying to be like Brando, and then he had cotton balls in his mouth and he just took them out of his mouth. I think it was from that. Yeah, I forgot which Mel Brooks film, but yeah, it's been parodied many times. I think he put something like that in his mouth to get that impression. Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go.
He couldn't contort his face naturally, but yeah, you were mentioning, Larry has the ability to, cut through the tension and, make people laugh during stressful times. Well, that all gets undone in the next scene. He comes back home and everyone is extremely mortified, probably even worse than what they were at the funeral. They show Larry the aunt's obituary, which has the word cunt instead of aunt. What is it? Devoted sister, beloved cunt.
Yeah,
I think that's what it says. Yeah. Larry is in complete shock, as I would be as well if I was in that situation. Larry says that it was a typo and he's very, very sorry for what happened. Becky tells Larry about the advice he gave her ex-boyfriend, which she finds out about, which angers the family even more. Cheryl tells Larry that he should leave the house for the night and go stay somewhere else. So it's probably the best scene in Curb so far. I mean, it's just, everyone just goes insane. Cheryl's dad, confronts Larry. You think he's going to throw a punch. He thinks he's going to like fight Larry or something. And, Cheryl gets to the point where all her family is so mortified, Cheryl even kicks Larry out of the house, her own husband.
Yeah, it's the first time we see things go downhill so much that Larry basically has to leave his own house. Normally, normally he just sort of sticks through it and then whatever is happening ends. But in this case, it's so bad. And I understand, look, to be fair to Larry, obviously the typo wasn't his fault.
Of course.
The boyfriend thing with Vicky and Craig, totally his fault. I understand why she would be upset. But yeah, things have never been this bad. And we've got two significant, things happening at once. Not just the typo, but also Vicky confronting Larry about what he told Craig.
Yeah. Everything just compounded. Exactly. I feel like the beloved cunt situation was like the big one.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
the Nikki thing was kind of like, it wasn't as impactful to everyone else, but it was still pretty bad. But it was just kind of like the little one that landed on top.
Yeah, I mean,
just add more blows to Larry.
It's the cherry on top for sure.
Like a much larger cherry.
Yeah.
Probably like a grapefruit or something.
Yeah.
Something a bit bigger than that.
What? We got a paper, that's what.
Devoted sister, beloved cunt?
Oh!
Huh? That's what you put in the paper?
This is a typo. That's Anne. It should be Anne.
Jeff, look at this before he turned it in.
No, they have proofreaders at
the
these
woman
papers.
leads a decent life and this is how she ends up? Beloved cunt?
Oh!
My wife is upset. I'm just glad you weren't in charge of the headstone.
Oh my God! I meant beloved Anne, not beloved cunt.
Larry.
Don't keep saying it.
Please.
Larry is at the gas station filling up gas, and he asks a stranger about how to get his gift wrapped. I think it's the mechanic at the gas station. The mechanic suggests a stationery store or a party store where they might have everything he needs. Another stranger walks past. Larry asks them the same question. He suggests the Hallmark store and adds that they have everything that he may need. So it's a bit of a plug for Hallmark.
Yeah, I think the scene is just playing on the stereotype that whether it's deliberate or not, I'm going to interpret it as an intentional thing in terms of how they wrote it and how they shot it. The mechanic is this blue collar guy, but the second guy that comes up and recommends the Hallmark, he seems a bit more like, I guess, upmarket, like a bit more stylish, maybe.
Yeah, like upper middle class.
Yeah, like, like kind of a wealthy, man about town in LA sort of thing. Like maybe he's I don't know, like maybe he's a musician or I don't know. He just seems more stylish. And I think what they were trying to say was that regardless of whether you're blue collar or, fashion forward or white collar or Larry David or whatever, if you're a man, you probably don't know where to get gift wrapping stuff from. That's,
it's usually like the stereotype is usually the women know how to do all that stuff.
Yeah, like Larry asked two very different sort of men where to get gift wrapping from, and they both have ideas. They both have a inclination, but they don't say, yep, go here, do this. This is how you do it. They're both sort of still a bit unsure. And I think they're trying to suggest that regardless of what type of man you are, if you are a man, you probably don't know, where to get gift wrapping stuff. And once you have it, how to do it.
That is a very good point. It just basically, goes to show that, in the context of this episode, no matter who you are, no matter what kind of man you are, you just still don't know how to wrap gifts.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously it's a stereotype. I know where to get gift wrapping stuff from, and I'm okay at wrapping gifts. But I think it would be fair to assume that most men would probably be in a similar situation to Larry.
Yeah, I can wrap gifts myself, but I prefer to just put it in a bag.
Yep.
A gift bag, yeah. One of those with the handles.
The easiest thing to do is to just not have any friends or family, so you don't have to worry about gifts at all.
Or just buy gifts for yourself. Just go to the store or buy it online, and you don't have to wrap it for yourself.
Well, completely cutting yourself off from any meaningful connection in your life is a gift to yourself. So it's a double whammy.
It is. It depends who you are.
Exactly.
Larry arrives at Jeff's house and gives Jeff's mum her gift, the sunglasses. She loves them. Larry says that Liz Taylor wears the same glasses, which makes her very, very happy. She says that she has prescription lenses, though. Larry says he will get her lenses put in those frames. Larry shows Jeff the typo from the obituary, and Jeff is completely shocked. He says that he will get the editor to write a letter of apology in the newspaper, and also, to write a letter of apology to the family, and Jeff will write his own letter to the family and sue Susie, looks at it as well, and she can't believe it as well. We actually see Susie, and she's quite calm in this scene. She's not her usual angry self.
No, she seems very pleasant towards Larry as well, and sympathetic to the situation. Well, obviously Larry got kicked out, and this unfortunate thing happened, and Larry's sort of getting the blame for it.
Yeah.
I would imagine that the only reason why she's being quite nice and sympathetic is because Jeff's parents are there. I'm sure if they weren't there and it was just Jeff, Larry, and her, she'd probably be a bit more angry.
A little bit angry, but she'd probably still forgive Larry because
I mean, she only gets mad at Larry when it either affects her or Jeff. Like, she doesn't just get mad at him for any old reason. But I would assume that she's a bit more calm and on better behavior because Jeff's parents are there, regardless of what's going on. I think that is very true. Yeah, that is very true because I think that would just make her a bit more, just settle it down a bit.
Yeah, well, you make a great point because in the pants tent, when we first see Susie and the parents, like the pilot episode, Susie's also very pleasant and calm as well. So she just she puts up the facade in front of Jeff's parents. But when they're not around, oh boy, she's a beast.
Yeah. One thing about this scene that I thought was funny, it was a quick thing that happened, is when Larry first handed the sunglasses case to Jeff's mum, as you said, she's surprised and thankful that she got a gift. But Jeff's dad immediately has a go at Larry because he didn't wrap the gift. He goes, what kind of person are you? Who doesn't wrap a gift sort of thing? It's not wrapped nicely. Look at this. Like forget that Larry did something nice that he didn't have to do. He's so pissed off at Larry that he can't give him any credit for the gift. He's just criticizing him because the gift wasn't wrapped.
There's still that animosity about the Hitler remark that Larry made. Back in the day. he's still upset at him.
Yeah.
Whereas Jeff's mum seems to be, like being happy towards him.
Well, I mean, she got the gift, so of course her attitude towards him is going to be slightly different after the fact. I'm sure if Jeff's dad got a gift, he would be a bit more humble, a bit nicer to Larry.
Humble. Yeah, a bit nicer. Yeah, a little bit. But anyway, Jeff's mum looks at the sunglasses through the toaster reflection to see what she looks like. Larry lifts the toaster up and puts it towards her, but the back of Larry's hand touches her breast by mistake, and she looks at Larry, and then awkward silence ensues between the both of them. So she thinks that Larry is trying to feel her up. Stop short.
Yeah, he's trying to stop
like Frank Costanza did. Stop short.
He's trying to.
That's my move. Stop short.
What I really like about this scene is the fact that Larry's just left his house where two pretty horrible things have happened. The misprint and him getting caught out about giving advice to Craig, and her being upset at him. The fact that the writers, that should be enough misfortune for Larry to carry the rest of the episode. But the fact that the writers are willing to add another, in and of itself, pretty awkward situation to that. They're just escalating it, which I just love.
Yeah. And no matter, it's just basically in this one, no matter where he goes, something just happens.
Yeah. I mean, normally it feels like that this episode, they really almost like intentionally, or maybe it just worked out naturally as they were writing the episode, that they just wanted to escalate the amount of awkward situations that Larry could get himself into. In previous episodes, it would just be maybe one or two, usually one significant event and maybe a smaller secondary event at the start of the episode. And then that event sort of carries through the whole episode. But in this one, we've got two that happen, at the same time. And then the next scene, we've got this third event where he accidentally gropes Jeff's mum's bosom. And before this episode, any one of those events, independent of the others, would have been enough to carry the whole episode. But in this, they're like, no, let's just keep dumping on Larry, They
triple down. They triple down on Larry's misery.
Exactly. Yeah. They just keep escalating. And I just love it. I think it's really good. I think it just shows that the writers are more like, no, let's just push this further. Keep pushing it. And I think that is, a reflection of their confidence as the season is going.
Yeah. And just shows like the high quality of the episode.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, when you're writing something, obviously a script, a pretty normal formula is you have a complication and then like a journey and then resolution. Like that's a pretty standard story arc, right? And the fact that the writers are willing to just keep, and this is like a third of the way through the episode. Like this is, maybe 40% of the way through the episode. They're adding more and more complications for Larry. From a writer's point of view, that is risky because it's like, well, can all these things resolve themselves at the end of the episode in a satisfying way? A lot of writers wouldn't be able to pull that off. But the fact that they do and they just keep escalating, to me is really impressive. And it's fucking hilarious as well.
Yeah, it is fantastic. It's so hilarious. Yeah. I love it too. Yeah. Larry is getting ready for bed later in the evening. Jeff knocks on his door and tells him he has to leave. Jeff says that his mum said that Larry touched her breast, but Larry explains the toaster situation with the back of his hand. Jeff accepts what happened, and he lets Larry stay in, provided he leaves at 7 a.m. the next morning. Later in the night, Larry wakes up at 2 p.m. to go pee. Jeff's mum spots him in the bathroom as she's walking out. She gets angry at him for what he did. Jeff wakes up to try to defend Larry as Susie and Jeff's dad approach him as well. And it becomes a big confrontation. Jeff's trying to defend Larry. Susie's wondering what the hell's going on, but then gets upset. Jeff's parents, Jeff's dad's always on Jeff's mum's side, of course. So, he's like, Larry, you pervert, he's really giving it to him. And Jeff says in front of everyone that he has to leave. Larry, early in the morning, is heading out as Jeff apologizes for what happened. He asks Larry for the sunglasses, but Larry says he'll hold on to them, the sunglasses rather, and give them to someone else. So, he's like, fuck it, I bought these sunglasses. I'm just going to take them. I'll give them to someone else.
Yeah, fair enough.
Larry says he'll go to a hotel.
Yeah, I understand why Larry's like, no, fuck it, I'm going to keep these.
Yeah, they're probably worth a lot of money too. A few $100 maybe.
A couple $100,
like, yeah, we'll just give them to someone else. Larry arrives at the Roosevelt Hotel to get a room. The lady says that they are booked solid. Larry says he booked a room for Craig, asks them to kick him out of the room. The lady says that he is a guest at the hotel in the room and he can't leave until 11 a.m. the next morning. And Larry's like, but I've already paid for this. I've paid for the room. I want him out. And she's like, well, he's a guest, so we can't kick him out till tomorrow morning. He offers the lady the sunglasses, but she refuses them. He's walking off as he spots Craig and another woman. Oh, he's moved on quite quickly. Walking in the lobby, Larry gets upset at Craig for what he did. The hotel manager goes up to them and Craig shows his hotel card to prove he's a guest. Larry says that he paid for the room, but as he doesn't have a key, he has to leave the premises. So Craig, he's moved on quickly.
Yeah, and he doesn't seem to have to deal with any consequences about his, dumping Vicky at such a hard time and getting together with another woman, and then also not be willing to accept the fact that he's put Larry in an awkward situation about opening his mouth. He walks away from it without having to deal with any consequences. So he sort of he escapes scot-free.
Yeah, it's interesting how he went to the same hotel that Craig was in. You think he'd try and avoid Craig? I thought he would have tried I thought there would have been a montage where he would have tried 3 or 4 hotels and they're all booked solid. But it didn't eventuate.
This scene as well showed Larry being that charming thing that I talked about before. He kind of flirts a bit with the receptionist at the hotel lobby.
And he says that he wrote Seinfeld. He's like, do you know Seinfeld? And she goes, yeah.
Well, he doesn't actually. I think he considers trying to use that as a way to get into the hotel, but he starts that. He mentions it, but he doesn't actually follow through. He says, "Do you know the show Seinfeld?" And she goes, "Yeah, I know the show." And then he's like, and then I think he thinks, "No, I'm not gonna do that." Before that, he's like, "What if I was the Pope? Would you kick me out?" And he's sort of, he's flirting.
Kick the Pope? Would you kick me out?
What if I was Frank Sinatra Jr.? Frank came in. What would you do? Would you have a room for Frank? And he's sort of being a bit flirtatious, and she's laughing and giggling. Again, it shows that Larry, when he needs to or when he wants to, he can just be funny and charming, not this sort of grumpy weirdo.
Paranoid guy. Yeah.
One other thing as well I wanted to mention in this scene is that to both the receptionist and the hotel manager, Larry offers the sunglasses as a bribe, even
to the hotel manager, the lady sunglasses.
To try and get a hotel room, and then second to just stay in the hotel to not get kicked out. So
yeah, I love that. He just gets desperate and he tries to use it as a bargaining tool.
Yeah. He's sort of so out of options by this point. He's been kicked out of home, been kicked out of Jeff's. He's got to apologize for a mistyped obituary. He's got to explain why he gave advice to Craig to break up with Vicky. He's been accused of molesting Jeff's mum. All these things have happened in such a short amount of time. He's like, these sunglasses are my last bargaining chip. Maybe this will get me out of this bind that I'm in, this complex bind. No, they can't even get them out.
Maybe the male hotel manager might give it to his wife or something.
Yeah,
as a gift.
It's the only option he has. The only trick in his sleeve is to try and bribe his way into a hotel using these sunglasses.
Yeah, and the hotel manager doesn't want to borrow it.
No.
He's done. And in the last scene, Larry pulls up to the side of the road and pulls down his seat as he'll be sleeping in his car for the night. And I love the editing in this scene, Steve. The scene cuts from night to day, but it looks so seamless.
Yeah, it's almost like it was done digitally, but I don't think that they had... I mean, I know they had CGI in 2000 when this episode came out, but
really bad CGI, but CGI nonetheless.
I don't think it was sophisticated enough to do one of those seamless edits. So maybe they filmed the scene just as the sun was setting, the sun was rising. The sun was rising, and then they just sped it up so it looked like a quick cut. I don't know.
Yeah, it was probably like that, or maybe I don't know. It just everything. It just transitioned so well.
Yeah,
fantastic.
It was very slick.
Yeah, it was very slick. So props to the editor for that one. He wakes up the next morning and puts on the Liz Taylor sunglasses sunglasses as the sun shines through the car. And that's the end of the episode.
Yeah, no, great episode. Loved it.
Fantastic. 5 Larrys out of 5 for me, buddy. What about you?
Yeah, I'm the same. Can't fault it.
5.
So one thing I mentioned before was that, the standard formula for writing something is to create tension, create a complication, have a period of discovery or journey or reflection, and then some sort of resolution, where the person grows or the situation resolve itself, whatever it is. In this episode, unlike most previous Curb episodes, none of the 3 binds that Larry finds himself in, the mistyped obituary, the advice to Craig, and the accusation of groping, none of those things actually resolve. They're kind of left open-ended.
Yeah, they're left open-ended, but that's the beauty of it. And it transitions, to future episodes as well, that tension between him and Jeff's parents and all that stuff. So I like how it's all unresolved.
It does have payoff down the line, which is, again, a common thing for anything that Larry David touches, which is, sometimes things are set up that pay off later. But I just think it shows another form of confidence in the writing that, we don't even have to resolve any of these tensions. We're just going to leave them sort of open-ended. And the only win that Larry David has is that he's able to put some sunglasses on to deal with the sunlight shining into his car. Everything else, Larry just loses hard in this episode.
Yeah, he gets one moment of solace right at the end.
Exactly, yeah.
I love the risk that the writer took, like you mentioned before, that usually like Larry, any of those 3 things that happened to Larry in the episode could have been one for the entire plot. But the writer just basically like tripled down and like, what, we're going to give Larry, we're going to, put a pile of rocks on top of Larry and he can't get out. I appreciate that they don't do this for every episode. I think if they did this for every episode of Curb, it'd probably get really boring and it'd almost feel like, torture for Larry. That would be like the theme of the episode. Like, how much can we push Larry? I think that would just get really tedious and, very, very contrived. So I appreciate that they do this as like a one-off where Larry goes really deep into the shit. But it's not like a regular thing.
Yeah, and I mean, if they did that every episode, episodes like this wouldn't be special.
No. And this one's a special episode indeed.
Yeah, definitely. And, it's not just the best episode of season 1. We've only seen up till season 3, but to me, it stands out amongst all the episodes I've seen so far. And I imagine it will still stand out once we eventually get to the end of season 10 and, season 11, in a year or two.
Whenever that happens. Probably more than a year, but we'll see how we go. Quite a while. Yeah.
I would imagine that this episode would still be, probably a top 5 or a top 10 for me, even at that time after 100 or 110 episodes.
I think so too, because this episode is mentioned a lot in our Facebook group, Curb Your Enthusiasms. I mean, this episode comes up a lot. So, everyone loves the beloved cunt reference.
Yeah, look, even if you'd never seen Curb Your Enthusiasm before, or if you'd only seen season 1, I think just watching this episode, it just feels like an all-timer,
Yeah, it does.
Sometimes those all-timer episodes or the best episodes of this or that series, it's only after the whole series is finished and after you finish watching them or after there's been a few years, after the series ends, do those classic episodes sort of bubble to the top. They stand the test of time or they linger on in terms of fandom, whatever. But this episode just straight away just feels like a top 10er, which... Yeah, for sure.
And so early into the series too. I mean, even Seinfeld, it took like, there were a couple of great episodes in season 2 of Seinfeld, but it really got going from season 3 onwards. So it took even 2.5, 3 seasons to really get consistent hits. But the fact that, there's such a great episode, like a fantastic episode so early on in the series of Curb, it's just a testament to how great quality the show is.
Yeah, I think, hitting so many home runs with Seinfeld probably gave Larry not only the experience but the confidence and the other writers on this episode as well, because Larry did do a lot in terms of writing and show running for Curb and Seinfeld. I think coming off the back of Seinfeld, you would have that confidence going into season 1, then say, because Seinfeld was his first major project. Obviously he was a comedian and he did SNL, but I think Seinfeld was his first major project that he headed. It was his thing. So I can understand why the first couple of seasons of Seinfeld were a bit shakier, because you're learning the ropes, you're learning what works, what doesn't. You're trying to find out not only what works for the show, but what works as best, like what your strengths are and what you can contribute. And after such a classic show, you'd start Curb Your Enthusiasm with so much more confidence and experience. So it makes sense to me that Curb season 1 is a lot more muscular and confident and sure of itself than, say, Seinfeld season 1, because Larry was in a completely different place.
And also they don't have the constraints of network television like NBC. Like HBO, at the time was like the daring TV channel, like the most daring kind of movies and TV shows, like stuff that's really challenging, to watch and stuff. So the fact, I think it was a great move that Curb went to HBO. So basically it's almost pretty much limitless with what they can talk about, the humor, the swearing, there's basically basically no limits. There's no constraints, unlike network television. So Larry could basically straight off the bat be like, yep, this is how I'm going to do it. And a lot of people describe Curb as like an R-rated version of Seinfeld, which I tend to agree. It'd be like if Seinfeld was on HBO, this is what it'd be like.
Yeah, for sure.
Like that was Curbcast. It's season 1, episode 8. Thank you so much for listening. We had a great time with this one. You can follow us on social media at CurbcastPod. Send us an email if you want, curbcastpod@gmail.com. You can support us financially as well on Patreon and PayPal. Patreon, you do get bonus content for $5 a month. You do get seasons 2 and 3 earlier than everyone else of Curbcast, as well as some bonus content we did back during our previous Seinfeld podcast, Bidwabast. And you can find this podcast on any podcast platform out there.
That's right. What are we doing next week?
Next week, we are doing Affirmative Action, the penultimate season 1 episode.
Yes, another awkward episode.
Another awkward. Not as intense as Beloved Aunt, but still very awkward nonetheless.
Yeah, no, it feels like a bit of what's the word? Like a breath outwards after this episode, like a,
yeah. A bit of a relief.
A bit of a relief. That's the word I was looking for. But
I'm itching to watch it. Yeah, I'm itching to watch it like Cheryl itches her skin for the entire episode. That's how I'm feeling.
True.
Get it straight into it. Anyway, my name's Ivan.
And I'm Stephen.
We'll catch you next week for Affirmative Action. You take care of yourselves and each other. Thanks for listening. This podcast is part of Mishmash Media, an independent podcast network. Follow us on social media at Mishmash Media AU or support us on Patreon. All those links are in the show notes.